Good morning, guys. Definitely an Uber job this morning for me. It's always happened. I get up nice and early and get Bella ready, and I think, let me just open my laptop really quickly, just check my emails quickly before I leave the house, and then there's always something there that needs my attention really quick, like immediately, urgently. So yesterday I didn't really vlog. I vlogged a little bit and then I just stopped because I was not in the mood at all. I had therapy yesterday morning and it just put me in a foul mood all day, and that's therapy for you. It does that. Sometimes you leave the session feeling great, feeling like you got so much off your chest, and then just keeping an eye on my Uber, and then other times you leave the session feeling like absolute rubbish. And yesterday just left me feeling angry, frustrated. Oh, anyway, I've woken up in a better mood this morning. However, I can feel myself getting a little bit sick. So I'm on the honey and lemon today. It's definitely not the big C word at all, don't you worry. I think it's just more like a head cold. I get them quite often, especially after a stressful period. So today, I've already posted up on my Insta, on my story, that I'm going to be doing, I can feel myself getting red now because I know what I'm going to start talking about. I'm going to be talking about the good old fashioned question that all victims and survivors love. Why didn't you just leave? Breaking news. We don't actually like that question. We hate that question. We find it offensive and just downright rude. But yeah, I'm going to be going more into that today. I can see my double chins are making an appearance. Woohoo! Yes, girl, come through. You know when people say to me, Lay, you're so funny, I don't know like how you managed to smile for, like, after everything you've been through. I'm like, thanks, it's the trauma, like that meme. It really is like trauma. It kind of gets you to a point in life where you're like, you know what, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing today. I'm just gonna take Bella to school now, come back, put on some makeup, sort my hair out. I've got, like, obviously got work to do that needs doing, so I get my work done, and then I'm gonna not post, but on here I'm going to share a voice note from the night that I left my abuser that I had sent to my friends, like when I finally admitted to a group of my friends what had been happening to me. Don't cry. Yeah, and I might jump on live as well just to talk to other survivors too, just to see what their mood is like, because last week they really helped me, made me feel comfortable sharing what I did with my first kind of I'm a survivor of domestic abuse video. So this morning I'm probably going to jump on there whilst I get ready and talk to them, see how they're feeling. Just say thank you for always like having my back and for making me feel comfortable and confident in what I'm doing. Because even though I want to share these experiences, I'm doing this willingly. Nobody's forcing me. I don't feel like I have to do this, otherwise I'm going to lose followers. And that's not it at all. I'm doing it because I want to share my story. I want people to understand me better, and it's cathartic for me too. However, that does not mean that I don't get nervous doing so. Yeah, okay, I've said way too many times now. Uber is 30 seconds away and I've got to get Bella in her shoes and get myself in the shoes, run down to school, come back up. Was not a good idea to wash my hair and go out in the cold, was it? But I'll put my big jacket on and put my hair in a hat. Say hi to the vlog, guys. I won't have it on for too long. Guys, so let me pause Friends because I'm pretty sure Friends is copyrighted on like every single social media platform going. I went on Insta Live earlier, had a good little chin wag with all the ladies over there, just engaging in the community, and they were all just chatting amongst themselves. It's amazing, just supporting each other, and I love to see it. I love to see it. This is why I do this every single day. Then I decided to change my work surroundings today. Instead of working at my dining table in the kitchen, I'm working on my sofa in the front room. So yeah, I just had some lunch. Well, I say lunch, I was finishing off my breakfast. It was just a ham sandwich with some crisps. I took this out to eat, but I might save it till later because I might have a coffee and a cupcake instead. Not that I'm not eating this for health's sake. My Insta is distracting me there. It's just because I fancy a coffee and a cupcake instead. It's 12:15 right now. I still have a ton of work to do. I'm gonna sit down and talk about why didn't you just leave? Our favorite question. But that's going to be the topic of today's discussion on my Insta page and here on my vlog, because I think it's such an important issue to talk about. And again, like I always say, if I have to be the one who shares those really intimate details of my life, then I will do it. I've been thinking about how I'm gonna talk about this whole why didn't she just leave and what my reasons for not leaving were. And I thought, instead of me just sitting here just talking to the camera, I'm going to share 2 voice notes from the night that I finally left, because these voice notes are really poignant for me. They were the kind of final nail in the coffin, one of the final nails in the coffin, when I realised that what was really happening to me was abuse, and that I absolutely could not be with this man ever again, and nor did I want to be. And it was the first time that I had come out to a group of friends. They had absolutely no idea what had been happening to me. They were a group of friends, girls that I've known since secondary school. I'm very close to them. So yeah, I'm just going to play the voice notes and then just try and work my way backwards.
Hey girls, I just thought I'd send a voice note instead of if I can get it together, instead of writing it out, because it's just all so long and complicated. But basically separating. I just haven't been honest with anyone for a really long time, and the truth is, for a really long time, physically abusive with me. And I've just finally decided that I've had enough. He's gone, he's not even moved into my new house, like he's not here. We've not been living together for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks now. And I need to tell like my closest friends, because I want to be held accountable. I don't want to keep going back to him. I want my friends to keep reminding me why I'm doing this, because when I'm around him, I feel so weak. Sorry to completely be like so dramatic on a fucking Monday evening, but this is my real life, and it has been for quite a while now. And for you girls that came to my wedding, like, all I can say is I'm sorry that I just came there and put on this fucking big front and acted like I was happy when I wasn't. Because I haven't been for a really long time. I'm only telling you this because, like, I just want to be held accountable for every time I feel weak. And I want to go back to him, but he's done a lot. Like, I was pregnant. That's when I was holding Bella in my arms. I think she was like maybe 2 or 3 months old. On Christmas Day. Oh, like I've still got the scars on my arms from it. But I finally made my mind up, like I can't. And no matter how much he says he's going to change and he's going to counselling and going back, because for as long as I'm there, he's always going to do it. He's always going to do it to me, and I'm just so heartbroken. I can't believe, like, it's weird, because for years and years I blamed myself, and I thought, it's my fault, like I pissed him off or I provoked him, because that's the things that he would say to me, is like, you provoked me, you didn't get out of my way, I pushed you because you did this, you said that. And it was like, finally, after all these years, I just can't make any excuses anymore. It's weird, it's like, all of a sudden I'm seeing my relationship completely different. Like, all these years I thought I was so happy and I thought I found the love of my life, and he's just not. And I just don't know what to do with myself. Like, I don't know where I go from here at all.
I need a minute. had a minute, I've gathered my thoughts. And you know, that's the reality, I think, of this journey sometimes. As victims and survivors, we tend to disassociate ourselves. I know I do. I really disassociate myself from that person that I was throughout that abuse, throughout the relationship. And so when those memories are triggered for me in my head, I do get emotional because I just wish I could go back and give that Lejla a hug and just be like, you know what, girl, it's all going to be okay. Right now it doesn't feel it, but I promise you, one day you're going to look back and think, why didn't I leave sooner? So I'm back from the school run now. I've put dinner on the go on the stove. And I thought I'd just sit here and chit chat whilst dinner is cooking. Why didn't I just leave? What a complex question it is to ask any survivor, any victim. That question is full of shame and blame, as if we somehow asked to be abused, as if we somehow wanted that for ourselves. And there is no one answer. I can't sit here and give you one answer and say, oh, I just loved him. I can't say that. My reasons for not leaving are very complicated, just like all other survivors. They're very complicated. Number one, I didn't realise what was happening to me was abuse. I didn't even recognise the violence as abuse, let alone the mental, emotional and gaslighting, until I started therapy in August 2019. And the funny thing is, I started therapy because my abuser made me feel like everything was my fault. And we started working through what I thought were my issues. That I finally realised, hang on a minute, this isn't me, I'm not causing this, he's causing this, he's doing all of this. For a long time, I didn't feel like I was a victim of abuse. I didn't feel like what was happening to me was domestic abuse, so it was difficult for me to recognise what it was. And then once I realised what it was, I was still in denial. I couldn't accept that what was happening to me was abuse. My abuser was very clever. He made everybody feel like I was the dominant one, that I was the one that wore the trousers in the relationship. He'd often put all the blame on me. After violent attacks, it was my fault. I pissed him off. I provoked him, as you heard in those voice notes earlier. That's what I said. And honestly, to everybody else, he acted like he worshipped the ground I walked on. How could anyone else see it as abuse to even pick up on it, to pinpoint it and to tell me, Lejla, do you think what's happening here is a bit weird? Like this is not okay. So there was no way that anyone else could have known it was abuse to even help me out, to even guide me. When I started to come around and accept it for what it was, I remember thinking, who is going to believe me? Who am I going to tell? Nobody is going to believe me. I've made out like I've had this perfect relationship with this man for so long. And actually for 8.5 years, what he's been doing to me is abuse. Mental, emotional and physical abuse. And on top of that, you have everything that you've given up to have a life with this person. I'd sacrificed a lot of relationships in my life I'd sacrificed. And at the time, I felt like I did it off my own back. And now when I look back, I realise I didn't. I realised that my abuser manipulated me into doing this. Not all relationships. Some friendships I'd completely given up to be with him. And it's weird. When I first met my abuser, I was young. I was only 21 years old, going on 22. I was ambitious. I was just finishing up at uni. I had a really bright future ahead of me. I never thought something like that could happen to me, which had another big part to play in my denial, which had another big part to play in me not admitting that what was happening to me was abuse. So I didn't want to admit that my relationship was an abuser-victim relationship. It was unfathomable to me. I couldn't believe that someone who had been so strong, like myself, acted so strong her whole life, had now fallen victim to this type of abuse. It's weird. There's a whole paradox of reasons why and emotions why you don't just leave. There was a big part of me that felt like I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell people what was happening to me was abuse. I felt ashamed. I felt like, why me? This couldn't be happening to me. It's not possible. There's loads of ties you have to your abuser. You have children, you have financial responsibilities together, you own your property, you have a social life together. And it feels like by leaving, you're giving all of that up. It's weird, I know. Stick with me, please. If you've never been through abuse, just stick with me. Maybe you just won't understand when I say like you have this idyllic future mapped out in your head, but so many of us do. Especially for those of us who don't realise that we are in abusive relationships. You think, oh, everything's going to be great. And when I realised that I really did need to get out of this relationship for my own safety, there was this part of me like, who do I tell? Who's going to help me? Because if I start telling the police or other agencies or the school, social services are going to come in and they're going to take my child away. That was one of my biggest fears ever. One of the main reasons why I didn't tell anybody for a long time was because I guess I was just super ignorant. I just thought social services are going to get involved straight away and they're going to take my baby. I didn't know what help was available to me. I didn't know that the charities such as Refuge UK and Women's Aid and Your Sanctuary and local domestic abuse charities, I didn't know that they were accessible to me. I had absolutely no idea who to turn to, who to ask for help, who would just listen to what I had to say, just to validate my feelings. And sometimes it feels like regardless of whether you're the victim, you're still the one who suffers, because you're still the one who has to go through a million different hoops after you leave. Maybe social services get involved in your life and they put your child on a protection plan and you have to follow through with their rules. Maybe you have to call the police and you press charges and you have to go through with a court case. That's a lot of pressure to put on a victim's shoulders, that they've got to carry that through even after leaving. Living with the aftermath of abuse daily is hard enough, let alone having all that extra pressure of other agencies on top. Thankfully, that's not been my experience. I've not had social services in my life. I did report it to the police, but I didn't press charges, so I've not had like any kind of looming court case hanging over my head. And I do remember the police officer even saying to me, if you decide to press charges, just be aware that the court case can be really tiring and really emotionally draining, which was really weird to hear. It was almost as if how he made me feel like he was trying to put me off from pressing charges. I don't know if that was his intention or not, but that's how it made me feel. My leaving period, I call it my leaving period because there was a lot of back and forth in those 3 months, probably isn't the same as a lot of other survivors. I realised that my relationship was not okay, what was happening to me, that I really was not happy. That for me, it was like, that's it, no more denial. This is abuse, you have to leave. But even then, there was still a lot of back and forth. How am I going to have a life without this man? I couldn't see a future past him. I was thinking in my head, I'm going to take my child away from her father, split the family up. All of this guilt that loads of survivors carry that is not our fault. It's not our burden to bear, but we still bear it, especially as mothers. And so in those 3 months, there was loads of promises to change. Loads of begging, loads of pleading, loads of crying. And in the end, he just proved that there was absolutely no way his abusive behaviour was ever going to get better. And in those 3 months, I started to realise that I didn't actually love him. That I was sticking around because it was what I knew. That trauma bond, that cycle, I didn't know any different. I'd been with him for 8.5 years. That was my life now. So for me, that 3-month period was really complicated. It was really emotional. I knew I had to leave. I knew I had to end the relationship. I knew it was what I needed to do for myself, but it still wasn't easy. It still was not easy because I was now facing a life as a single parent. I was taking my child away from her father. I was giving up the life that I'd known for the best part of 9 years. That social life that we built together, buying a home together, all of that stuff you do as a married couple. And again, on top of that, we had just recently got married as well. I was thinking like 5 months beforehand. But I couldn't ignore my needs anymore. I couldn't ignore what was happening. I could not ignore the fact that he was never going to change and that I just didn't want it. I did not want it. I didn't want to hang around anymore. It was still difficult, still so hard. I'll never forget the 2 nights before I officially ended the marriage. I had gone out with 2 of my friends, and at the end of the night, I was just a mess, a complete crying. I was sobbing in my friend's house. And I think it was more sobbing because I knew it was over. I knew I couldn't do it anymore. That was hard. That was a hard night. And 2 days later, then I ended the marriage because I thought, that's it, Lay. You have to leave. You absolutely have to leave. That why didn't you just leave is such a horrible question to ask victims and survivors. Such a horrible, horrible question. You have no idea how much pressure you're putting on a victim when you ask them that. How much they feel like you're blaming them. How much you're making them feel like it's their fault. Please stop doing that to victims. Stop asking them, why didn't you just leave? And turn to the abusers and hold them accountable. Ask them, why did you choose to abuse your victim? Those are just my reasons for not leaving. Other victims, other women have their own reasons. There's so many complicated reasons. Some women, they financially cannot get by themselves. Their abuser holds all the cards. They're financially abused. And so they have no access to funds without their abuser. Some women are here on spousal visas. They have no way of staying in the country without their abuser. They have no access to public funds. Other women are just scared. They are scared because their abuser has threatened their life if they leave. Their children's lives, their families' lives, pets, everything. And some abusers are that dangerous. Sun's killing me now. They are. You have no idea how much danger some victims can be in once they leave. It's when a lot of women's lives are at the highest risk when they leave. And there's one thing that us victims know. We know how to safety plan for ourselves. We know our abusers' traits. We know what triggers them. We know the threats that they've made to us. And we know what they're capable of. Leaving is dangerous. It is not as easy as you think it is. I think it's important for me to say here that in no way by opening this discussion up am I enabling victims to stay. I don't think it's okay to stay with an abuser. This is more me hoping to give people a better insight, to make people understand that asking these questions of victims and putting this pressure on victims is not cool. Stop it. Stop it. That sun is killing me. Leave victims alone. If you're not going to leave them alone, support them. Help them with what they need. Stop blaming them. Stop putting all this pressure on victims. Over on my Instagram, I have whole highlights and it's called Just Leave. And on there, there's loads of responses from victims and survivors on my that had to a comment box that I had done months ago about why didn't you just leave. And you can see for yourself some of the reasons on there. And some of them are devastating. I told a story, it was the second story that I told on my page, about one survivor who had just a horrific ending after she left. That's over on my page. I'll link the video down below for that one. But she lost her children at the hands of her abuser because she left. And that's what some victims face that is the danger. That is their reality of just leaving. That not every survivor is as lucky as I am, or you who's watching this. What a horrible question it is to ask us. And you know what? Some women, they don't leave because they just love their abuser. And it might be really difficult for other people to understand that, but they do. They don't want a life without them. They believe they can change, because that's what abusers do. They promise you the world. Just because it wasn't my experience, just because I no longer love my abuser, I can't ignore that other women had a different experience to me. And you heard in that voice note earlier that no matter how I felt about my abuser, that I didn't want to be with him anymore, that final moment when I ended the relationship was still hard. You heard in that voice note how heartbroken I sounded. So I can't imagine how difficult it is for other women who genuinely still feel like they are in love with the person who does that to them day in, day out. And I don't expect anyone else to understand that unless they've been through it. I really don't expect them to understand it at all. Sometimes your abuser makes you feel like no one else is gonna love you. Who's gonna have you? And that's what they say to you, you're damaged goods. That's one thing I heard a lot in my relationship from my abuser. Look at everything I put up with. Who else would put up with this stuff? And it gets into your head. When you hear that regularly for a long period of time, you believe it and you genuinely think, yeah, I am damaged goods. Who's gonna want me? So I might as well just stay. At least he loves me. That's such a sad thing for me to say, because I can't believe I actually felt like that about myself, but I did. My abuser genuinely made me feel like I was just a piece of poop for a really long time. I think people don't realise how much the emotional abuse has an effect on you, has an effect on whether you leave or you stay. And being told that no one else will love you and that you are damaged goods destroys you, and it completely ruins your self-esteem. As you can see, there are so many different reasons as to why women can't just leave. If I haven't touched on your reason, please put it in the comment box down below. Start the conversation. Be open and honest with people. They won't understand until we tell our truth. It's so important for us to speak up. It's not a shame. It's not embarrassing what we went through. That's not our burden to bear. I'm going to end the vlog here. This will go up today. I'm going to post it in like real time, and then I'm going to post some of it onto my Instagram as well. I was just editing what I've already filmed today, and I can tell like it's quite a heavy topic for me to talk about because it's complicated. And I was just watching it a lot of times thinking, God, are you even making sense? But it doesn't make sense sometimes, and that's the reality of it. That's why sometimes it's hard for us to tell our stories from start to finish, because it's still a jigsaw puzzle for us in our heads. And I'm so glad that I've decided to document this journey here on YouTube, because someone somewhere will come and watch these videos and they will feel less alone. They'll feel like I'm not going crazy. Someone else feels like this too. And also one day I'm going to watch this back and think, you did that. You pieced the whole story together. With an amazing community behind me. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky.